It's the Stranger Nerds here. We have Thomas Grant. I don't know, just call you Thomas, but Tommy Grant.
Call me Thomas.
It's been a while. Mitchell Lee and myself, Connor
Tomas.
Vandermark, Tomas. And we have here season 3, chapter 6 of The Stranger Things, The Bite. Written and directed by both the Duffer Brothers, do both in this one. And first impression, gentlemen.
Get you brothers that can do both.
Yes.
Every time they come in, they bring the action, they bring up the suspense. It's always, I think that's why they
got
have
the
it set up.
juice.
They always open up the season and close the season, and they always know how to close it.
Oh yeah, that's something I really have noticed as this is the third season I have been working or watching with these guys, and they do really. I think it's kind of funny how they do have different directors for the middle ones and different writers, but like it's always these like this is our vision, this is going to happen, kind of fill in the holes.
Yep. And I mean, they don't hold back. I mean, we'll definitely get into it, but I mean, like they start off the episode just you're right into it. There's no holding back. There's no setting stuff up. You're just right into the action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely agreed on that. I thought it was a very good episode. And we'll get into the ratings later, but like that was something where it's like it again, everything it's all coming together, but like the story beats just like boom after boom after boom. I'm like, let's go. Like this was nice. Compared to the previous episode was still good, but like it was very much like we're approaching the climax.
Yeah,
obviously
we're there.
We're there.
And these were the episodes that I know, at least I've been waiting for you to get to. I'm sure Mitchell has too. But like, this is what season 3 was about. Like, just the ending.
I've been trying to tell you when you're over here, like, oh, season 2, it's good. I enjoy it, and I'm just like, you punk bitch, you have no idea.
Hey, don't be wrong. I still like season 2. Season 2 had its own flair to it, but like
why?
Again, I liked it because of the fact that like again, as we mentioned before, like every season has its own kind of feel to it, like kind of based on different genres and like and I thought season 2 had its own merits. Like I am very much enjoying season 3. Don't get me wrong. I think season 3 is better, but like, we still haven't seen the finale yet. But I'm assuming from what you guys have been saying, it is fantastic. But yeah, it's definitely a. I don't know. I think season 2 has its own appeal to some things. And don't get me wrong, like this, I had like no peek behind the curtain here. We've been a little bit of a hiatus with people bouncing around. So even then, me coming back into this, I'm like, all right, let's go, let's dive in. Like even talking to my girlfriend, I was like, you still haven't finished? I'm like mostly through the season. I want to finish this.
Yeah.
Where's the boys at?
I felt really bad for you because like Tommy moved, I got a new job, so things have been kind of hectic and crazy. And Connor's just here like, can't you let me finish this shit?
And like I'm trying to keep the honor system here because I want to give our listeners a authentic view
props
of like
for that.
Dude, I have a lot of self-control, and thankfully I have a lot of other things that I dive into that can take my attention away to other things. That's the good thing with ADHD sometimes.
I was getting to the point where I was going to text you like, hey, if you want to finish the season, you can. And just hold your comments to yourself and just save it for the podcast. Like,
listeners, I am committed to the bit, and I'm keeping it that way.
Good. And hey, the extra time doesn't really hurt because it's going to be another year until the next season comes out. They don't give a damn. These kids are going to be like setting up retirement plans in their late 20s, early 30s by the time that the last season comes out.
Well, poor Noah Schnapp is going to have to figure out what he's going to do with his career because it's not going to be an acting.
I think he's the reason why he's like, all right, please, can we just get this extended? Come on. I want to say that I've had a decade-long career in Hollywood because I know the second this ends, I evaporate into thin air.
He'd also get like arrested too, or what hell that was.
There's been some drama around him.
I think he threw a fish at someone or something. Maybe just making that up. I don't know, but
there was an article you did send us. And
Yeah,
it was like,
no.
yeah, of course, it's this guy.
Yeah, the one that can't act.
The
All
only
right.
other actor that I'm unaware of is Lucas. Outside of Noah Schnapp, every other actor has had work in between seasons. They've been in movies, they've been in TV shows. Noah Schnapp is the only one that I don't know what he's done in between.
Are you saying that you haven't seen Lucas in anything?
Not that I'm aware of.
I saw him in a movie that came out in January called The Book of Clarence, and he was pretty good in that.
Good for him.
All right. Well, then that proves our point even more that Noah Schnapp is just the weak link of the bunch.
And Noah Schnapp was not in that movie, so
No, he was not. But anyway, let's dive into this bad boy.
Let's go.
So where we started?
I would say so.
Let's-
Usually, Tommy, you
Start
don't
at
take the
start.
wheel on these.
So
Um,
the opening scene. We dive in.
Hold on.
It's a
Before you
very
go to the opening
patriotic-
scene, before you get the opening scene, gentlemen, I know me and Tommy have gone to the Middlesex County Fair, which was not this. But like Mitchell, what's your fair experience growing up? Any
Oh,
good like
that's
local
funny.
fairs to you? That's where I'm going with this.
Well,
Yep.
here's the thing. Unlike, not unlike you guys, you do know that growing up, we lived in the same place.
I understand that, but like, okay, how I'm getting to this is that like fairs were. When'd you move? 7th grade.
I moved in right after 7th grade. Correct.
Yeah, so like that like window of like freshman sophomore is like to me is like ideal fair age, and like
Balls dropped and I got out of there.
Yeah. So I was more so. So I was saying like, no, what was your experience? I didn't really go to the fair that much until like I went a few times when I was younger, but
It
like
shocks me because the fair was like literally right down the street from your house.
it's like I walked to it though. Isn't like okay, right down the street from my house is like
But I had to walk, so
no,
it wasn't really worth it.
No, as in so he claims it's right down the street, but it's also like a 40 minute walk just to get there.
Okay, then drive.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, again,
It's
it was until I was older I got there. That's what I'm saying
Yeah.
is that like no, it was close, but it was like wasn't convenient.
Okay.
Yeah.
I went for the fair food and the few rides. The Mousetrap ride, as we talked about last time, is the best fucking ride there. I will fight anybody on that. But the
Scary as
food,
shit. No, thank
You're in
you.
a very aggressive mood tonight. I've noticed that.
why?
You've threatened to punch me at least 3 times since we've gotten on this call. Not maybe since we started recording, but oh, so you're progressing.
I'm
Next,
summoning
you're
my
gonna
inner
stab
Hopper.
me in the face.
I'm summoning my inner Hopper this evening because he went on a roll this episode.
I guess. My fair experience is more as I've gotten older. There's a good fair, the Carolina Classic Fair, formerly the Dixie Classic Fair. When it comes to Winston-Salem in about late September, early October, it's a good time. Food's good. Love me some funnel cake. That's it. It's kind of crowded. The rides, I'm not the biggest like let's get on a bunch of rides type of person, but yeah, it's fun to spend a Friday night doing that, I guess, then come home and just sleep.
See,
You gotta at least
to
go on one
me,
ride.
I love rides in general. No, we've been very spoiled at having Six Flags Great Adventure in New Jersey, which was a fantastic theme park. But when it comes to like fair rides, scare the shit out of me. I will not trust those shit. Like the only one I'll go on is the UFO one that like they had in the show. It spins you in the walls. That one's fun. That one's fine. It's contained. But like the ones that like make you that are on like a bar axis, it kind of spins around your cage. You're flipping around the cage. Like hell no. Hell no. Would not trust that shit with my life. No, thank you. I heard enough horror stories.
It's not a good fair ride if you don't look at it and say, "Yeah, I might die on this thing."
No, I like my life. Thank you very much.
I mean, I just recently learned to like my life, but even before I did, I didn't trust that kind of stuff, man.
Well, Mitchell, I'm glad you're liking life now. All right, let's dive
man.
into this now. Let's dive into this. Tommy, kick it away.
So we open up. It's the 4th of July. Mayor Klein's infamous Hawkins Fun Fair.
Fuck Carrie Elways. He's a horrible actor. All right, we can keep going.
And we have the Wheeler family going on the Ferris wheel. So, of course, I thought it was funny that Mr. Wheeler just seems completely uncomfortable with the fact that he's not in his little chair at home sleeping. He's actually out and about in society. And the whole way up, he's just like, oh boy. Like, it's completely.
I forgot.
Is this
I
thing
forgot
safe?
they had another kid. I was like, who the hell is this kid that's with them? I'm like, oh yeah, no, they have a younger kid. I forgot about that.
Probably the first time Holly has spoken in the show since season 1.
Yeah, I'm like, who is this? Why are you here?
But speaking of Holly, so they reach the top of the Ferris wheel, and we find out that Mrs. Wheeler paid off the operator to basically make the Ferris wheel stop so they could have a good view of the fireworks, because that's a pretty clutch move.
Yeah,
But
clutch.
This is the second time where Holly has noticed a monster or something weird going on. Flashback to season 1 when she sees the monster coming through the walls at whose house? Fucking Will's house. And Mrs. Wheeler's like, oh, don't look at the trees, honey. Look at the fireworks. I'm like, no, look at the fucking trees. There's a goddamn monster coming right your way. But fuck Mrs. Wheeler and Mr. Wheeler. They're just useless parents. And we shift over to 11, who has explained to the group what she heard the Mind Flayer talk about in the last episode, which is basically the Mind Flayer is doing all of this to get to 11. 11 is the only thing that he cares about. He wants to take out 11. And then next thing you know, we hear the infamous Mind Flayer roar, and everybody goes running outside. And this thing's fucking huge compared to what we saw in, what was the last episode, 2 episodes ago in the hospital? So I gotta ask, Connor, what was your reaction when you saw it, like this behemoth monster coming their way?
All right, so I have one qualm this episode. Why didn't it get in the car immediately and just get out of Dodge?
This is little cinematic magic where you see this giant monster heading your way, and in real life it probably would have taken 15 seconds for it to get there. But all of a sudden they have all this time to go gather supplies, board up the house. Yes. Nancy searching through the shed. It's like oh, we got like a 5-10 minutes before this thing gets here. But that's just the cinematic magic.
I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I saw the thing, I was like, oh damn, like, okay, they're gonna book it, and never booked it. And I'm like, oh god. Like, and then of course the name of the episode, The Bite. So I was like, oh, okay, so who's gonna get bitten here? And then no. After that wonderful fight scene, which was very good. I thought that was pretty decent.
Well, I give props to Nancy, because Nancy has kind of taken over this entire group. Like, she's gathering the weapons, she's telling them what to do. They get in like the little back-to-back little formation in the middle of the room, even though Nancy and Jonathan are the only two that have weapons. The rest of them are just standing there like, what the fuck are you guys going to do? And then obviously there's 11, who's the main powerhouse of this group. But we get another great Noah Schnapp moment where he gets a little tickle on the back of his neck. It's like, it's the only thing. It's the only thing he does every season. He just touches the back of his neck, and it's like, ooh, it's here.
It's tingling.
Like, the fucking house is rattling. Yes, it's here. I could just hear Mitchell's groan when he watched this episode. I just know that's what he did.
It wasn't necessarily a groan. I was more just that was the part. Again, like Connor mentioned, there's been a little bit of a hiatus, so it took me a little bit to kind of fall back into the show. But maybe I would have been there if this had been my 3rd episode of a day, or I'd just been in the rhythm. But it took me a little bit to get back in the rhythm, so I was a little bit more forgiving, maybe.
All right. Mitchell has a heart.
That wasn't up for debate.
We have some Mitchell character growth.
Oh man. But I thought, like, overall, I thought the fight scene was good. The monster, man, that was like, just like when I saw the monster first puncture the house, I saw the one arm. I was like, is this asshole baiting him to baiting to find L, and then then going for the full barrage of, okay, I know where she is, trying to go full swing at her. And it's kind of happened. No. But at the same time, like, the whole, like, at least those who had weapons, or Lucas stepping up with the axe later on to save Elle. I thought it was overall, like, a good, like, cinematic kind of, like, helter-skelter,
it
save
was
Elle kind of situation.
it was like the the wolf and the three pigs kind of storyline here. You had the one arm come through, she takes care of it. The two arms come through, she struggles, and all of a sudden it's like, oh fuck you, motherfucker! I'm coming through the roof, and just go straight for Elle.
Yo, the teeth. Oh my god. I saw the teeth, like, I was like, oh shit, this thing's got a maw. Oh yeah, that was something that I was like, damn, this thing is they definitely did pretty heavy with the CGI on that. I was like, oh shit, that looks pretty good.
It, as you'll see, it definitely leans into that a little bit more the further we go on. But yeah, it's impressive, and Netflix was definitely boasting about how much money they were putting into this, and it's on the screen.
Yeah, like, and like it's not money that's egregiously spent. It actually is, no, you get your bang for your buck.
But the entire fight scene, despite how powerful 11 was, you have Nancy just unloading shell after shell into this thing, and it does no damage. So,
and also a lot of ammo. She just kept rolling with it.
Yeah. But you at least, but you know what? I give credit because you at least see her reload. It's not like that movie magic where they just constantly have unlimited ammo. You never see them reload. You at least see Nancy
true.
actually have to load the thing, which was cool to see. And you have Lucas stepping in to save the day after Jonathan gets his ass rocked by the monster's arm. So
tendril. I want to call that an arm.
Tendril, arm, tentacle, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But I gotta ask, how do you think they're gonna deal with the Mind Flayer? How do you think they're gonna defeat this monster if they defeat this monster? Because of how powerful it is. Because it basically regenerates itself every time it gets hit.
Well, my first thought was just burn it. Like a witch. Like, the reason why I go that way, like, actually, like, my thought process of this is because the fact this thing is made of flesh, like, the possibly the best way to keep it regenerating is, like, to cauterize it. So by burning it, you're, at least to me, might counteract the regeneration properties, and they know that it does not like the heat.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
That's my thought. Just gasoline, just trap it somewhere, and then just like, all right, bonfire, bitch, let's go.
That would be pretty cool to see. Actually, it would be pretty cool to see if they got like Molotov cocktails and stuff.
I was thinking like a whole, like, no, the thing is smart, but like have a situation where, like, I don't want to say Rube Goldberg it, but like have a nice little trap for it where it's like, oh, you're now falling into this pit where you're full of gasoline and all the flammables and kabooey. I like my unique adjectives.
Yeah, I keep them up. I love them.
I'll be honest, I completely forgot how this season ended, so I can't even be like, oh well, like I don't know. I've completely forgotten how it wraps up. So
really,
yeah, which is funny because my fiance walked in towards the end of the episode and was like, oh yeah, no, they're about to do this, and I'm like, I don't remember that, and then it happened, and I'm like, oh. Well, I guess someone remembers this show a lot better than I do, even though I really enjoy it.
It's definitely one of my favorite Netflix shows. I usually rewatch it every year during like Halloween season. It's a good Halloween season show.
Mm-hmm.
This season definitely captured a good summer vibe.
Yeah, and it's a good time we're conveniently reviewing it a couple weeks after 4th of July, so we're kind of on theme for it right now. We'll have to see what we're going to do for season 4 because that's definitely a Halloween vibe. But anyway, so 11 finally gets free after they play tug of war with her with the big giant Mind Flayer. and you got a little chunk just stuck onto 11's leg, and Mike just rips that thing off, and you can tell it fucking hurt. Like, she was screaming. So that thing was latched on. It was like super leech power.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It's gross. It's squeamish. I don't know.
It won't be the last time that happens either.
No, it won't be. But so we pan over to the, I guess the Russian lab crew. I don't know what you want to call them, but Dustin, Erica, Steve, and Robin, and seeing Dustin and Erica have to play a parent role in this episode.
Very funny.
Just another good comedic twist on their characters, because just seeing them have to deal, especially with Steve, the entire episode was just, it was great. And especially like they're riding up the elevator. Dustin crashes the little car. They go in the elevator. Steve and Robin are like playing surfer on the cart inside the elevator. And when he realizes like, oh no, the Russians took my keys, Dustin's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, come on. So just like,
I'll be honest, a whole lot of this season, as much as I like it, a whole lot of it has been, all right, now let's get back to the mall and get with Steve and Dustin, and that's kind of been where my heart has been for this particular season.
I mean, we kind of talked about it in the beginning of this season, where we talked about the mall being kind of a character in itself.
Absolutely.
So me and Connor definitely talked about it a bit, but it's the mall is kind of the central aspect of this season. So wanting to go back to the mall is, I'm guessing, what the Duffer Brothers had in mind for the viewers. And they definitely did a good job of it.
Plus, it being such a huge staple of like pop culture within the 80s, that like it like, it's kind of funny now where we are, especially after COVID, where it's like, when was this recorded? This season?
2019, pre-COVID.
Yeah, so exactly. So like, definitely after COVID, like it's definitely kind of ironic where it's like mall culture is very much, it's been falling over the past couple of years. I know it kind of stabilized as of late, but like still it isn't as what it used to be with online shopping, and the amount of cultural significance that it has these days is much deteriorated. Like even back when like I was in high school, like I remember literally have a day and spending at the mall with my friends, and like there's us bullshitting around. And now it's a situation where it's like, oh, it's only a place of convenience, if anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it was never. I mean, the mall in Greenville is just sad, so I never really had much fondness for it. But yeah, I'm with you as far as that goes. It definitely captures a moment in time really well.
Yeah, and speaking of moments of time, I mean, we get the crew kind of coming out of the elevator. They have to dodge the Russians, and they go right into the movie theater, because every good mall has to have a movie theater inside it.
Mm-hmm.
And we get them kind of crashing into one of the movies.
That's a good opinion, by the way.
What?
Every good mall should have a movie theater, or at least a movie theater like in the area.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's a good spot. It makes you stay there longer too. I mean, you go shopping, get the food court, go see a movie, and then you come out after the movie.
As someone who likes to see 2 or 3 movies in one day, it's nice to have something to do before.
Yeah. And so we get them kind of crashing into the movie theater, and it's a classic 80s movie, Back to the Future. And I love how Dustin just kind of like sits them down. They're like bickering. They're the obnoxious people in the theater. They're just bickering back and forth. Steve's being obnoxious. Robin's being obnoxious. And Dustin's just like, just stay here and shut up. Watch the movie. I'm going to go find us a ride.
By the way, Back to the Future, it's a little bit overrated.
Oh,
it's very good.
My heart.
Love the movie, but like some of y'all have it on this pedestal that it does not belong.
Let's take a small step back. Are you referring to the Back to the Future movie singular, or the trilogy as a whole?
I've actually never seen 2 or 3.
What?
I've never seen 2 or 3, but I've seen the first. I saw the first one 10 years ago, and I really liked it, but I was kind of underwhelmed compared to where everyone else had it. That I just never bothered to watch 2 or 3, and I know I should, but I remember watching it and I was like, I mean, I liked it, but that's it.
Why is it that every time we record, I find more and more reasons to take your movie card away from you? The man who has seen more movies than all of us combined.
That's true.
I had the box set.
Yeah, every
I have Back to the Future on DVD. It's a great movie, but like people are like, "Oh, it's the best movie ever made." Calm your ass down.
Well, no, it's not the best one ever made. I think it is to me, tier wise for movies, I'll give it like a solid B plus.
Okay, you're higher on it than me, or you're lower on it than me. Wow.
Oh,
I have it as an A. I'm just referring to people that think it's like an all-time great classic.
Oh, like to me, A's are the all-time great classics. To me, that's what I give
it. Is an all-time classic. It's not one of the best movies ever made. I will never say that. Like
I know a lot of people who would put it on that level.
But you know what?
No. I think it's a fantastic movie.
If you mention Back to the Future, the DeLorean, 88 miles per hour, everybody knows what the fuck movie you're talking about. That's how well known it is.
My dad still sends me memes of the freaking flux capacitor. It was like on some website. It was like, oh, like there's some web like electronic store had a joke item of the flux capacitor in their shop, and like we thought that was a nice little gag.
They made the DeLorean a popular car.
Yeah,
the better Cybertruck.
Oh my god! Don't get me started on those.
Yeah, my left ball is a better Cybertruck.
Don't get me started on those.
But like, it's a good movie. It's something I've always enjoyed. I recommend 2 and 3. Honestly, I think 3 gets some hate. I think 3 is actually pretty decent. I would recommend it. It's a fun watch. It's a good like summertime movie in my opinion.
Well,
but it was a good movie for them to stumble into.
Since we're on the topic of movies, I'm gonna skip ahead in the notes real quick. I'm gonna list off the movies, and Mitchell, I want you to say if you even heard or seen these movies, because I paused it when they were exiting the theater later in the episode to see what other films were playing at the theater at the time, because I was like, I just want to see, just for fun, just to see what they threw up there.
Okay.
And it was showing Back to the Future, Daryl, Return of Oz, Fletch, Cocoon, and The Stuff.
I've heard of.
Now
Fletch
I googled every one of these because half of them I never even heard of, and they are all 1985 movies.
Is there Return from Oz like the sequel of Wizard of Oz?
Oh yeah, I googled all of them just to see what the actual like descriptions of the movies were, and there were some weird fucking movies. Daryl was, I guess, the only one that was kind of close to Stranger Things, where it was a government created robot kid. And
I actually think I've heard of that.
And he was considered a failure, so they were going to destroy him or terminate him or whatever. And a couple rogue scientists basically help him escape to save his life. And he's got like mental telekinesis power. So it's like, all right, that at least kind of relates to 11. Return of Oz was a Disney-made sequel to Wizard of Oz, where Dorothy is rescued from basically a psychological experiment and somehow magically ends up in Oz, where it's controlled by some random empire. That's as far as I read into it, but it did not look good.
Mm-hmm.
Fletch was a Chevy Chase detective comedy. Cocoon and The Stuff, I don't remember what they were, but I never even heard of them. But Mitchell, have you seen any of those movies? To add, so I'm gonna add them to your list.
No, nope. Haven't.
All right. So we'll have to do an 80s themed movie watch to, catch you up.
I'm getting ready for horror season, so
I'm already doing some research on what movies I'm going to make you watch. So we'll have to compare notes.
Well, yeah, let's do it.
All right. So back to the episode. We're going to enter the wonderful world of Planck's constant, where we're going to hear a little speech from Dr. Connor.
Science Corner!
Yes, the Science Corner with Dr. Connor Vandermark. But we have Hopper, Joyce, Murray, and Alexi the adult group, as you might refer to it as, they're on their way to the mall, and Alexi's basically showing blueprints and describing how to destroy the key. And we learned that it has to be turned off. It's got two key sail face system. Basically, make sure you have to two people turning it. It's like the nuclear thing you see in the movies. Two people turn the key, and the code is Planck's constant. So I had the question, what the fuck is Planck's constant? Because I'm not a smart person like Connor. So Connor, fill us in. What is Planck's constant?
Yay! So it's a very much a fundamental physical constant that's used in quantum mechanics. So when it comes to particle energy, is something that we work on. We use as a constant when it comes to a photon's energy, which is equal to a frequency of it multiplied by this constant that Planck made. So it's a very, very big. It was a very big discovery, or discovery, but like realization that this phenomenon exists, and it's very much the true doorway opening for quantum mechanics, where like the stuff that Albert Einstein postulated, what him winning the Nobel Prize later on in 1930s, that was all based on Planck's constants work in 1918, where he won the Nobel Prize there on his work on the electromagnetic waves. So it is like very much a fundamental, like this was groundbreaking, like in the world of science, like this was literally the most groundbreaking thing, and it was very much the beginning of the new era of science as we know it.
Interesting. Mitchell, any comments on Planck's constant? Did you learn something new today? Because I did.
Yeah, wouldn't have ever guessed any of that.
Like, surprising enough, when it comes to like, I'm surprised that history of science isn't taught as much these days, because of the fact that it is so influential of how things occur. Because the fact that like there's like many famous researchers out there, especially in like the early 1900s, that have made discoveries that have dominoed into great proportions of what we see today. It's kind of wild how like like different small events that occurred, like Albert Einstein, for example. Him being a Jewish man in Germany, like the reason why he went to America in the first place was because of the fact that the Holocaust, and the fact that that was the main reason why he went to America and warned the United States, like, hey, they're building some over there, we better beat them to it first. And it was kind of like, no, you ever watch Oppenheimer, which I highly recommend. Like,
great movie.
As someone who works in that field and with my department, and like it was something where it was like, oh, like the historical significance of this, like it was a fantastically done movie, and actually showing how important the science was when it came to Oppenheimer's work, and the forefront of that, the forefront of how that led the decision making of policy making within the United States.
Well said.
Thank you. Alrighty. So back to the fair.
That was Science Corner with the Stranger Nerds, led by Dr. Connor.
I'm not a doctor, but I appreciate it.
No, you're an unofficial doctor in my brain.
Honorary. I'll take it.
Now we get into the comedic corner with fucking Murray. And we have just another Murray therapy session with Joyce and Hopper being the main subjects of this one. And we have Hopper and Joyce just bickering about whether or not to go save the kids. Joyce is threatening to get out of the car, and Hopper's like, what are you going to do? Walk all the way there? Just like, they're arguing like an old married couple. And Murray, of course, gives his great lines and just basically tells them to just get it over with, pull the car over, go have sex, get it over with. And we start to see a little bonding between Murray and Alexei. And we start to see Alexei kind of, to the viewer, become more a person. Whereas before we were just like, we don't know if we're supposed to trust him or not. Now we're kind of seeing a different side to him, where him and Murray like just joking and making fun of Hopper, which I thought was really funny to see, despite what happens later to poor Lexi. But what did you guys think of that whole scene? Because that every time, I've said it a million times, but every time Murray's in a scene, it always makes me laugh.
It cracked me up. All honesty, I actually had a good chuckle over, like a legitimate chuckle over the whole scene itself, and especially when it came when Murray made a comment to Alexi's like, "Oh no, like those like." Because Alexi has no clue what they're talking about, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, like no, those two need to screw each other." And like Lex, like they haven't already, like thinking like because Alexi, that point, he just sees two people bickering in a foreign language his whole goddamn time,
He probably
and
thought they were married.
he probably thought they were in a relationship together, and this whole time, and it's like they aren't already. Like, what is going on here? And like, it was a genuine like laugh of that whole scenario, and but I think Murray did like kind of like what's the word? What's the phrase? Term of phrase I'm looking for here? Really cut through the bullshit of
Yeah.
those two. And like, just like this is no, this is what I'm seeing. This is what is actually factual, and I've seen you guys what for 2 days, maybe. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is just insane. Sort your shit out. I can already tell what the problems are.
Yep.
It just reminded me a lot of a very similar scene in the second season between Jonathan and Nancy, where he's basically doing the exact same thing.
Yeah. I feel like Murray in another life was a love doctor. Because
I don't know about a love doctor, but at least a sex doctor or sex therapist.
Yeah,
guru.
something of that regard. But
all right, just brief that Love Guru, one of the worst movies ever made. Period.
Yes, agreed. That's what I've seen, and I'm like, this is just stupid.
Yeah,
I
was in it for the hockey, and it was just disgusting. It was just awful movie.
Awful
Yeah.
movie. Let's not spend any time on that.
No.
We're done.
Yeah.
But in terms of Murray, I thought it was interesting how the last couple episodes with him spending time with Alexi, he was so just turned off by the fact of having, quote unquote enemy of the state in his home. And now all of a sudden he's like just starting to bond, he's joking around, laughing with him.
They're all I thought it was buddy.
Yeah, it was kind of seeing Murray in a new light of Murray starting to trust people, which definitely some character growth on his end because he always stayed isolated. Now he's been forced out into the open. Now he's starting to make a friend, and
that just told me I knew exactly where things were going because of that.
And also, just the Duffer Brothers love to tear your heart out because this is the same episode in season 2 where good old Samwise Gamgee lost his life.
Shit, that's right.
So something about the second to last episode, the Duffer Brothers love to just throw a death in there.
I was so sad too, because I was like, oh, I hope Alexi sticks around. Nope.
We will get to that in a little bit. So right now we're at the point in the episode where I kind of call it the calm before the storm, because you have both groups kind of just like a little hiatus moment there. You have 11 and her group at a medical store looking for supplies. It's like that random filler part where everyone kind of goes their own way, has their own little personal conversations. We have Max actually stepping up and taking over the medical care of 11 because she's had so many accidents skateboarding that she knows how to heal a broken bone. But a little fun fact on 11, Millie Bobby Brown's character actually broke her knee. She broke her left kneecap in half during filming, so they actually threw that injury into the show to basically, because she was already hurt. So it just made more sense for her to look injured in the show.
Well, like hide her a limp. That makes sense.
Yeah.
How'd you break her fucking kneecap? That hurts.
That's what I want to know, because when I read that, I was like, "What the hell was she doing that she could have broken it?" But
the patella bone is real hard, and that's insane.
So, I guess she's just really committed to her injuries. I don't know. But we have Nancy and Jonathan kind of talking about the mind flare, and they think it's made up of human bodies, which we as the viewer know that's what it is. So Nancy and Jonathan are kind of putting together the pieces on that. Lucas was instructed to find a bowl, and typical boy going through a store, he instantly finds something more fun to look at, and that was the fireworks section, which I agree, I would have done the same thing. And of course, his logic is, well, we can just blow the thing up because we put enough of these. I forget what they call it, Satan's something. The big firework, but you put a couple of these together, it's like an M80. It's like TNT. Just blow it up. I was like, good thinking, Lucas. Who needs a bowl when you got some TNT? And then even Max comes over and she's just like, what are you doing? He's like, we're stocking up. And even before then, it just, Lucas kind of just played a little bit dumb in this episode, which I was okay with. Like, when they were looking for medical supplies, he just dumps out his backpack. It's just all random crap. He's like, is any of this going to help? Like, no, Lucas, just go away.
Also, them looking in a cereal aisle for bowls.
Yes.
I was like, come on, guys. Like,
have you been in a grocery store before?
Well, it's funny because this scene, like, this whole collection of scenes kind of helped the viewer remember, like, these are just kids. They're in, I think they're still in middle school. I don't remember. They might be in high school now. I don't know exactly how old they're supposed to be. But
I think like 8th grade, I think it is.
Yeah, but either way, they're still kids. It's like they're going through all these life and death situations, but you throw them into a food store and they don't know what to do. So it's kind of funny to watch on that end. And we get Dustin kind of coming through the radio, and his batteries die out, and it's just a screaming match between him and Mike trying to talk to each other. And then we get Dustin.
Hold on. I want to pause for a second. This is kind of occurring to me now, because I'm trying to remember. Has it been a bit since I've seen the beginning of the season? Dustin hasn't really been like in an actual scene yet with the other party members, right? This whole time, like, there was one time at the radio. That's about like, when he's talking about his girlfriend. That was the only real scene he's been with them, and otherwise he's been just isolated,
completely separate.
Well, that's kind of the one unique part of this season where we've had the two groups,
Susie, that's
separated the entire season. Because Dustin basically said, screw you guys, and went off on his own, found Steve, and they've been doing the Russian plot. Yeah. And they've been stuck underground the entire season pretty much. So it's been interesting seeing that dynamic, which allows you to have more groups and more characters get involved, like Erica and Robin.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, this is the first time he was kind of reaching out, and of course his batteries are dead. And I just love how he runs up to Erica in the theater, like, do you have any extra batteries? And she's like, yeah, because I carry those around with me. Like who?
Just the sass. Her sass is so great. I love it so much.
And I
brings
love
a good energy to this particular part of the show, where everyone there has such good chemistry, and she's just the one going like, can we just move on? Like, people are trying to kill us. I'm going to die.
Great straight man. Like,
yeah.
Wonderful. And an unlikely straight man too.
Yes.
She cuts right through the bullshit, but even still, Dustin retorts back. He's like, well, I always carry batteries around with me, but I need like 10 for this radio.
Like, he needs 8.
Like, what? But and then we shift over to Steve and Robin having a little heart-to-heart in the bathroom, which I thought was nice. We start to see a little bit of a nicer side to Steve more in this episode too.
Heart-to-heart after they just puke their guts out from being dizzy over them, and them talking about the whole incest plot in Back to the Future.
Oh yes,
and then get dizzy looking at the lights, and then
the one debate everyone's had with Back to the Future.
But the thing is, like, they knew what they were doing, which is very funny. It just like,
well, between the incest plot of it all and the fact of everyone always questions like why they call it Back to the Future, and having Robin try to explain that was pretty funny.
Yes,
because
like, the conversation was wonderful in between both of them.
Yeah, It's, you have Steve kind of playing the, like, I don't know why you were interested in me kind of card, and she's like, no, I wasn't interested in you, I was interested in the girl that was interested in you. And you just see the look on Steve's face, but he's like, but she's a girl. Like, just
That whole
nothing,
scene
nothing was
was
clicking up in Steve's brain, which tracks for Steve, but
that whole
and then-
scene was done really well.
Yes.
I think I've been a big fan of Maya Hawke since the beginning of this show. This was the first thing that I saw her in, but her I don't know, her earnestness in this scene, and I think that while I'm blanking on Joe Keery, he did a good job as well. Those actors have a great chemistry together, and I think it really paid off in this scene.
yeah, I
Like
mean,
the-
just it's one of those scenes where you don't have to have much. It's just simple dialogue and just seeing the facial expressions that they do and the small mannerisms that really kind of help bring out the character.
yes, like
Because you have Steve's dumbfounded facial expressions, and just when he has that realization of like, oh, that's what you're talking about, but he didn't say it, but he kind of just plays it off like, I'm accepting you. We don't have to talk about it. You don't have to say it, but I know what you're talking about.
but the thing is though, like even like because I want like in depth in that, like like the facial expressions were again like as you mentioned fantastic, and like even before that where Robin was like realizations like, oh shit, he's falling for me. And hold on, and then they'll because at first like Steve's like, is she not understanding that I'm talking about her, and slides underneath the goddamn bathroom stall.
Yep.
I was like, oh my god. And she was like, you know how dirty it is, like we're just yachts, like who the hell cares.
He's like, let me just put some emphasis. Look at my face. This is who I'm talking about.
With his black eye. But the fact that like, and like again, like her, explaining, like trying to be very, I guess, candid about it. I think it's the right word I'm looking for here. That I was like, hey, I'm not interested in Guy. Like, the reason I was jealous, I was more jealous of you because the one who was the focus of my affection, or was the one who was fawning over you, and like the gears were like slowly turning in his head, like, and the teeth weren't clicking exactly. Once they clicked, it's like, oh, okay, and like, and I thought it was a very mature thing to do was Steve understanding it, accepting it, and not being mad about it. And the truth him probably helped about that too, or I was upset. I guess the better way to put it. But the fact that he kind of flipped it on its head is like, oh, who the fuck needs her? Like, she's an awful singer anyway. Like, that was such a great job of him understanding the situation and understanding, because Robin probably feels guilt that he feels that way too, and she's turning him down. But at the same and also exposing her own self. But he took a very sorry, but didn't mean to cut you off.
See her reaction too, because she has that moment where it almost looks like she's saying like, "Oh, does he hate me now? Like, is he not going to accept me?"
I don't want to lose a friend.
Yeah. And
he took it come across her face, and you see her twirling her hair, looking away, and then reconnecting him with him, like, "Hey, like, you alive over there? Like, give me some sort of answer here."
I wonder how many times they had to do that shot of him kind of coming out from one stall to the other and going underneath, because it's an overhead shot. It's really well done. I wonder how many times, like, either he just didn't really slide the way that he had expected to, or it took longer, or it like hit his head on the bottom. Like, how many takes did they have of that one shot? Because it was a well done shot, and I think it does a good job of bringing them from, hey, they're both kind of separated from each other, and now they're coming together. And I think that shot really tied it together. Maybe that's just because I'm a big cinematography person, but I thought that was a smart choice.
It was a symbolic thing in that shot. I completely agree with that. But the point I was getting to was like the fact that Steve understood the, I guess, vulnerable situation that she put herself in and the awkwardness. Like, props to him just flipping on its head, like, yeah, fuck that girl. Like who the hell cares? And making light of the situation as a whole. And that actually have the emotional maturity to do that. Like, I thought it really spoke to, like, looking back to season 1 to Steve's character. Let's be real, I hated him back then. I thought he was an asshole. I thought it was a very nice character growth of him as a person from where we first started with him to now, actually. Because even then, like, no, no, Robin even mentioned, like, oh, why'd you start dating like a prissy person like Nancy? Like, no, you said you loved her. It's like, oh, she isn't like that. No,
Yeah.
she's somebody different. And, like, again, he saw the same thing in Robin. But at the same time, like, him not be, like, I can definitely see Steve being angry about that season 1, where now he actually had so much more emotional maturity to actually be a good human being. And I can see why Mitchell actually likes Steve overall from the beginning, where I can say I very much am on Team Steve now, because of the fact that I think he is so much more rounded out.
As you
Favorite
should
character
be.
in the whole show for me personally.
Yeah, he definitely has the most growth in this show, and it's one of those dynamics where you have, you know, the whole love triangle in the beginning, and you can go either way. But Steve is the one you grow to love, and Jonathan's the one you grow to hate, because he just becomes a useless douche towards the end. Especially in this season, he's just kind of useless, always trying to hold
Yes.
Nancy down.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, Steve was great, and I think it also puts more on Dustin as a role model for Steve, which is still kind of funny to talk about. But the whole lecture he gave Steve in the beginning of the season, when he's like, you need to find someone who you enjoy being with and not just go for someone because they're cool or pretty. And you finally see Steve open up, and of course gets his heart ripped out, but at least shows that he's growing as a person. But so we'll get away from that conversation, and we'll shift over to a quick scene that we get, the only scene of Billy in this episode, and it's a really brief one. But I thought it was interesting and worth mentioning because we see Billy arriving at the medical store where the group was at this point in the episode, and he's touching Eleven's blood, and you see his pupils dilate. So that's a new thing we've kind of seen with the Mind Flare, in the sense that it almost seems to be tracking 11 by blood. That's kind of how I gathered. What do you guys think of this part of the episode?
So when when Elle got first bit, one thing that came to my mind was, like, oh, did he leave a part of himself into her? I mean, when we then saw her wounds, like, oh, that was disgusting. Like, which when she saw her wound later on, I was like, oh, the things became so just gross. But, like, I kind of figured, like, oh, like, is he gonna act like is the Mind Flayer gonna act like a virus inside of Elle? And seeing him approach it and touch the blood, like, you see the blood was kind of congealed, and, like, I was like, oh, there might be something to this. And when his eyes touched him, like, oh, I think he's kind of like, to me, he is reconnecting to the part that was in Elle, and getting information from it, from the part that was inside of her. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, like, oh, he knows where she's going now because of the fact that his little quote unquote bug was letting him know the situation.
Okay. Mitchell, any thoughts on that part?
No, not really. I'm just ready to talk about the what comes next.
Well, let's dive into that, because this is definitely the comical and sad part of the episode, and
This was the only thing I remembered apart from the conversation with why am I forgetting their names? I just talked about them. Steve and Robin.
Yeah.
I remembered this. It's the thing I might remember the most about this season was this episode with Alexi.
Yep. That's the same for me. It's kind of how it this is one of my favorite episodes of the season, and kind of goes for season 2, where you have the death of Bob. It's just such a monumental episode. It's a lot of emotion. You've got the comedy, you've got the action, you've got the heartbreak, you got everything thrown in there. But we have the whole crew of adults showing up at the fair, and you see Mayor Klein call the Russians because he's just a slimy douchebag, and you want to hate him. And you have Alexei and Murray having another conversation. And Alexei's talking about the key and basically, be careful of the explosion and all that kind of stuff. And he kind of mentions, like, becoming an American after everything's over. So again, you see more of a soft, nice side to Alexei of, like, he's just a person who is in a shitty situation. And Murray's kind of becoming his sponsor and just, like, teaching him all about American life. And what better place to do it than at, like, a small town country fair type thing on the 4th of July. And it just makes the heartbreak even more worse when he dies, because it's just, you see him, he wants to get away from his old life. He wants to start fresh. He's found people he can trust.
He's having fun.
Yeah, he was having a great time because, it's a fair. He was learning about the concept of all the fair rides being rigged, or fair games, I should say. And you have Hopper and Joyce kind of looking around. And I have to mention, because we've talked about Hopper's outfit for the entire season so far. And just the line that the ride operator gives him of "on your life, Magnum." I thought it was great because it kind
of I did not catch that.
Oh, you didn't?
I did not catch that part.
Oh, he was trying to get her to stop the ride because she was like, because him and Joyce were talking to the Wheelers trying to figure out where the kids were.
Back against
and
the
she
wall.
was telling him, like, are you on or off? And Hopper's like, just stop the ride. And she's like, "On your life, Magnum," and cranks the ride onto full gear. And I thought it was funny because, like, we kept joking about how Hopper looks like a Magnum PI type character, and she nails it right on the spot. But what's also worth noting is you have Hopper and Joyce holding hands when they get stuck on the ride. So you kind of starting a little foreshadowing of their possible breakthrough in their relationship, if you want to call it a relationship. But Murray definitely got to both of them, and they're starting to think about it, but they're too stubborn to actually open up and talk about it. And
so I want to make a comment here right now, because
yeah,
this may be a little foreshadowing, because of the fact that I remember, if you two forgot, I have seen the beginning of season 4.
Okay.
So again,
that's right. I remember that.
Yeah. So I'm not going to spoil anything, but I am very confused how someone got to point A to point B.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, then. And I'm curious to see in the final episode how that happens. And I'm like,
tune in next week.
Yeah, pretty much. To me, I'm missing that connection right now.
I gotcha.
Like, what's happening here? And
there's a lot that happens.
You're like, wait, so they're gonna wait till the very end for that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You kept thinking, like, all right, so surely this is gonna be a gradual thing, and
it never is.
No,
it never is. So yeah, okay, now continue.
Well, we're gonna go to the sad stuff now, because we have Alexei winning his first American Fair Carnival game, and he's all proud of himself. He's got a little Woody the Woodpecker stuffed animal.
He was kicking ass too.
Yeah, well,
the kids are loving him. I was like, let's go. I was like, let's go, Alexei. Like, dude, like the buildup was so nice. Like, oh, I feel good for him. And then
you saw the interview of him come out, and he's like, he's shouting to Murray. He's like, "It's not rigged. It's not rigged." And Murray's holding up the corn dogs. He's like, "Yeah, you rock." And the fucking Terminator comes through the crowd, and the second you see him, you know what's gonna happen. And he's not even hiding it. He's just walking through the fair with the gun out, just not even giving two shits. And cinematic, it was great because you see him wait for the sound to go off. You have the balloon popping from the game at the same time as the gunshot. and he just casually just walks on by and says "traitor" under his breath and just keeps on going. And just that moment of shock, because you know what happened even though you don't see the gunshot, and then you see the little blood splatter growing and growing, and you see Murray, freak out and run over to him, and you know it's over. Like, there's no chance
Yeah.
he's living through that. Even though Murray was like, "Just wait here, I'll go get help." It's like, no, he's dead. There's no surviving that. But it was heartbreaking. I felt bad for Alexei. I was like, poor man. He finally won a game, but the game won and killed him. But then we quickly switch over because Murray starts screaming to Hopper, who is still looking. They just look confused. Hopper and Joyce are just wandering around, and you've got Murray screaming like they've got Alexei, and then you see more Russians coming towards them. So Hopper decides, I'm just going to go into this playhouse and fight them in there, because that's what Hopper wanted to do, I guess. It was
Risky business, splitting the party.
Yeah, it was an odd choice, but it was a pretty funny scene watching him just beat them up in a little kid ride. But yeah, it just, I don't know. It was a fun scene, but it was kind of silly.
So, two things. So first off, isn't there something like this at Seaside or Wildwood, that same carnival thing with like the weird playhouse thing?
Seaside
I, yeah, I saw. I'm like, huh, look at that thing. Like, I kind of poke my. For those who don't know, Seaside, New Jersey is like a big boardwalk place on the beach, Jersey Shore. So the other thing too is when they're in the funhouse mirror. Actually, now I should probably Google this beforehand. I'm trying to remember what movie this is from. Yeah, so Mitchell, what's your 007 knowledge?
I know what you're referring to.
The Man with the Golden Guns, the movie.
I'm gonna get shot in the face for this, but that's fine. I've only ever seen Daniel Craig James Bond movies.
God, come on.
And
I know that's fair. No, they're
I
old
love
ones.
Daniel Craig as James Bond. Actually, that's not fair. I have seen a Pierce Brosnan one, but it was awful.
He's my favorite James Bond personally, but still, you haven't seen any other ones.
I've seen a Pierce Brosnan one. It was The World Is Not Enough, and that movie was not enough to keep me entertained. That's for damn sure.
There's some good ones with Roger Moore. The Man with that.
I've heard that.
The Man with the Golden Gun is a good one.
That's the one that's been recommended to me the most, other than maybe like GoldenEye or Dr. No.
Yeah. The Man with the Golden Gun is very good. There's a scene in A Man with the Golden Gun which is very similar to with the mirror fight scene where
I completely
Hopper is fighting against, I think it's Mr. No is the antagonist in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, this is a great homage, because Man of the Golden Gun, 1974. So it kind of lines in that kind of window of throwbacks with the movie the show goes with. I was like, oh, that's really good. The other one I recommend too is what's the one with Odd Job? Goldfinger, I think it's called.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Goldfinger, GoldenEye.
No, it is Goldfinger.
Okay.
1964. That's the other one I would recommend as well. That's like an oldie, but like that's a classic.
Much different, much more slow paced than the Daniel Craig James Bond movies, but still classics.
Mm-hmm.
But see, for me, I'm glad you mentioned that, Connor, because for me, my brain went to Die Hard for this scene, not because of the mirrors, but the fact of the whole, like, he got the gun and the radio off them. I was like, I really wanted him to go to the radio and be like, I've got a gun now. Like in that first Die Hard movie. There should have been shattered glass on the floor or something to make it more like that. But in my brain, it went to that. That and It Part 2, there was a mirror scene that was kind of fucked up that kind of made me think of that too. But either way, it was a cool scene, cool cinematography, seeing the whole mirror playing around with that.
Yeah,
Which I have to admit, that's got to be hard to film.
There's
I'm
a
sure
similar type of thing in I think the second John Wick movie had something like that going on. And yeah, I can't that's fun to do, but challenging to do.
Yeah, I don't even know how they film those unless they just edit out the cameras but I'm sure they have some sort of trick to it. But either way, so we have Russians taking on Hopper. Hopper unloads a full clip into Mr. Terminator, which again, it's that movie trope of they always go for the chest, they never go for the head. And the guy's always wearing a bulletproof vest. And
even Hopper makes a comment is like, you gotta be kidding me. Like,
yeah, he just gets right back up.
He's like, what, you didn't see Infinity War? I know that's not out for another 30-something years, but really?
But seeing Hopper go down a slide was pretty fucking funny, too. But, and then we get a random scene of Joyce just marching up to Mayor Klein and just straight up decking him and then storming off. It was uncalled for, but just props to Joyce because that was awesome. It was a weird scene to just kind of throw in there. But so Hopper versus the Terminator round 3. I wouldn't even call that a win for Hopper because he didn't do anything other than just knock him down with bullets, even though he got right back up. So 3 rounds with the Terminator, and he's kind of lost all 3 of them by technicalities.
Yeah.
So Hopper's just not doing great in the fight scenes lately. But yeah, so we get them driving off, and we have a scene where you got the Russian stuff coming over the radio, and Hopper just leans over the front seat to Murray. He's like, here, translate. And we find out that the Russians are basically talking about the kids at the mall, and it's like, we have the kids on the lower level. Don't let them out. So all of a sudden the stakes go super high because that's what Joyce wanted to do the whole time, was find the kids, save the kids. And now the kids are in a life and death situation, and they're not there to help. But thankfully, 11 is. In the final scene of this, you have that suspenseful moment. You have Dustin, Erica, Steve, Robin. They're pinned down behind the stand. You have four armed Russian guards, or whatever the fuck you want to call them, against 4 unarmed kids. And they're going so slow and tactfully. I'm like, just walk up. You're the ones with the guns. Just go up and hit them. But of course, you have to build up the suspense. And then you have the little model car shaking, and you know it's 11, but they don't reveal it right away. And then bam, 11 fucking knocks them all out. And you have the reunion of the 2 groups. Everyone is finally back together. Connor, how'd you like the ending?
Very good. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, of course you knew it was 11, but I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. It's like Robin, I think is very funny where she is, Robin and Erica, like Erica knows who Elle is because like hearing the stories from Lucas, but Robin's like on the outside looking at him like, what the fuck is this craziness?
Yeah, who are all you?
She has superpowers? What? Are you sure? Yeah. Like,
now my one critique that I just don't understand from this part is when Robin and Nancy are introduced to each other. Why don't they know who each other are? They went to school together. Even if they're a grade apart, with how small this school is, how do they not know each other?
It's more so the fact that like you can know who someone is, but actually never been introduced to someone.
Yeah, it might be more like I know of you, I know who you are, but I've never really sat down and had a conversation with you. So no, I get that. Or maybe that. Other people don't know that you know that person exists. It just high school can be a strange place like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was kind of odd because it's such a small town. I feel like that would.
The high school's pretty big though. I don't know. Yeah, it's a small town, but like the high school itself looks relatively largest. Like, would say graduation class is like 300, 400. Like that's still a decent amount of people.
Yeah.
I know us is like 2 times the amount of that. And from where
ours was like 800 plus people.
900 plus people.
Yeah.
I had about 500 in my class.
So yeah, like you're much more close to that, and like, no, to me, it seemed very reasonable because what's real? There's many people in our high school, that were like, I didn't even know some people existed. To be completely honest,
Yeah.
So like, even if you know someone in passing, like there are situations where like if you never had a class with someone, there's no reason to you to actually introduce yourself to someone. So I see no issue with that.
That's fair. But the best interaction out of this whole reunion was Lucas and Erica. It's just the sibling rivalry of just like, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Like,
I'm fighting the Russians. Like they're Russians.
like, Lucas is trying to hold strong. Like, these are my friends. Like, what are you doing here?
What are you doing here?
So funny.
Yeah. So I think it was a good lighthearted way to end the episode. But then we have 11 collapsing. Her leg is like pulsing, moving. So something's kind of moving inside there, which is kind of what you were alluding to earlier, Connor.
Mm-hmm.
But so I'm pretty sure, something's in there that was placed by the Mind Flayer, but we don't really see what it is yet. So now that the episode is over, season finale predictions. What do you think is going to happen? Do you have any thoughts, predictions for that before we go into ratings?
So I do think that what's the way I want to put this? I do think that Elle won't be the hero in the finale, because I do think, from how I'm reading the tea leaves here, is that I think that the Mind Flayer is going to try to neutralize Elle, at least make her not able to use her powers. No, obviously the Flayer's trying to kill her, but overall, I think that no, she will not die, but like at the same time, no, she will be kind of a non-factor in the final fight, or she might have some influence, but she won't be the hero in this situation. I think something else is going to happen, of like a combination of different actors teaming up to do something. The Maul, I do think the Maul will be the final showdown, because of course the other two, the last party is going there. Yeah. So because again, it's kind of funny where you have.
Do you know the episode title for the final episode?
I have not seen it yet.
Okay.
So
everyone dies. No, I'm just
kidding. A couple Ragnarok. A couple Apocalypse. Yeah. No, well, because the fact that it's been kind of funny where they've been fighting a war on two fronts and not even knowing that they were.
Yeah.
And again, like, they're not realizing it was related to later on, because Steve's group didn't realize the Flayer's out, and the group of kids led by Nancy had no idea. Oh, there's a whole Russian operation that's causing this whole thing. So, and again, the Maul being a character, it's the final showdown is going to happen there.
Yeah.
The question is, I don't know. I'm the one thing I'm curious about is how will they shut down the gate, because the gate is still under Russian control and like protected by them. So I don't know how that's going to happen. No, they know the keys, but also they get the keys, and like there's a lot of things that have to line up, and I'm kind of curious how they're going to put their ducks in a row on this one.
Yeah. Okay. Mitchell, do you have any predictions, since you've forgotten what happens next episode?
I'm not going to give any predictions, because I feel like the predictions might just be
spoilers.
What actually happened. Yeah.
But on that note, do we want to go into ratings?
Sure. I have the Excel doc up here. I am going to give this a.
That's not a number.
I'm well aware of that. I think I'll give it like I think I'm gonna give it 9.7. I think that's well deserving of it. It doesn't help that I have been kind of removed from the show for a bit, but I do think comparing the episodes in season 1 and 2 and like looking how I've been rating things, trying to keep it consistent. Like I do think that is easily one of the best episodes I've seen.
Yeah,
like I was very much glued to the screen the whole time, and I was like, and the whole everything lined up very well. So 9.7 it is. Tomas.
Mine is a 9.8, kind of for the same reasons. It was a great episode. Everything happens. The cinematography is great. The acting was great. The dialogue was great. You go through an emotional roller coaster from just, laughing to crying to laughing to going, oh shit, what the hell just happened? It just, it had everything you want. So It was definitely one of my favorite episodes up to this point in the show. Now, for my Mitchell guess, I'm going to have to say, I'm going to go 9. What?
I'm going 9.43.
Motherfucker. No, you're not.
Yeah, that was my number. Yes.
Mine was 9.45.
All right. Hey, it doesn't work being we've got enough Mitchell predictions that we are pretty much knowing how he predicts.
Well, the fact that we both have guessed the exact number on his guesses before, I think we might be close then.
You guys are very close.
Please say it's 4-4.
Very close. No. 9.41.
Motherfucker.
We both went over.
9.41. No, I loved this. I loved this episode very much. It's one of the best.
Still, it is your highest rated episode so far.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, by a decent margin actually, because the closest one is the season finale of season 1, which is a 9.21. So, 0.2 is much higher.
Yeah.
In your grading scale.
He's saving those high ratings for season 4. I know it.
We'll see. I have some opinions on season 4 that might not be the most popular, but we'll see what happens when we get there.
So it's an average rating of 9.63.
That's got to be the best one yet.
Oh yeah, by a large margin,
comfortably. Yeah.
Second, yeah, it's about 0.2.5 more than the finale of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, the season 2, not finale, but like episode 8 on that one was a 9.29 too. So like there's been some kickers in each season.
Yeah, that's true.
But honestly, this is only the second episode that's gone over an average of 9 on this season.
Very nice.
So, but overall, good dingers. Anything else, gentlemen, before we wrap up?
That is all I have.
All I got.
Alrighty then. So make sure you guys follow us on our socials. Jersey Nerds Podcast on Instagram, Twitter.
Football season's coming.
Let's go. Yeah, it's been a very this is the dog days of summer, and
seriously, I've just been counting down the days until football comes back. So we're almost there.
Almost there. All right, for myself, Tommy, and Mitchell, have a good one.